It was a bright sunny morning when Armand drove into his new neighborhood. His small blue car was packed with boxes, tools, and a few plants. After months of saving money and working extra hours, he had finally bought his own home. He had imagined this moment many times, picturing the day when he could walk into a house that was truly his. The neighborhood was quiet, lined with neat houses and well-kept gardens. Birds chirped in the trees, and a gentle breeze carried the fresh scent of flowers. Armand felt a sense of freedom and excitement he had never experienced before. Armand had chosen this place carefully. He wanted peace, privacy, and the freedom to live his own way. Most importantly, this home was outside the local HOA boundary. He had heard enough stories about strict HOA rules and fines for small mistakes. People had been forced to repaint doors or remove their decorations, just because it did not match the community's rules. Armand did not want to live under someone else's control. He wanted to make his own decisions about his home and garden. The house was small but charming. A white fence framed the yard, and a large oak tree provided shade over the front lawn. The walls were painted cream, and the windows had clean wooden shutters. There was a small garden space where he could plant flowers and vegetables. A small porch at the front invited him to sit outside in the evenings. Armand felt a smile spread across his face. This was his space, his life, and his freedom. As he parked his car, he took a deep breath and stepped out. The air felt fresh and welcoming. He grabbed a few boxes from the car and began walking toward the front door. The sun reflected off the windows of the nearby houses, and the neighborhood looked peaceful. He was ready to start this new chapter of his life. Just as he placed the first box near the porch, he noticed a woman approaching from across the street. She seemed to appear out of nowhere, walking quickly with stiff steps. She wore a large sun hat, dark sunglasses, and a badge on her shirt. Her posture and expression told Armand that she was serious about something. She came straight to him, holding a clipboard tightly against her chest, and stopped right in front of him. "Excuse me," she said sharply. "You cannot park on this street without HOA approval." Armand looked at her and gave a polite smile. "Good morning. I just moved in, but this street is not part of your HOA. My property starts right here," he said, pointing toward his house. The woman's eyes narrowed, and she gave a disbelieving frown. "That is impossible. Every house on this street is under our association. You must follow our community rules. No overnight parking, no garden decorations, no pets over 30 pounds, and no unusual paint colors." Armand stayed calm. He did not want a confrontation. "Ma'am, I checked everything before buying. This home is outside your HOA boundary. I have the property documents. I do not need HOA approval," he explained. Her mouth opened slightly as if she could not believe what he was saying. "That is a mistake. We maintain the beauty of this area. You cannot just move in and do as you please," she said firmly. "I am not doing anything wrong," Armand said kindly. "I am simply moving into my own home." The woman squinted at him, then glanced at his car. "Your car's the wrong color. Vehicles in this neighborhood must be neutral shades. Blue is too bright." Armand suppressed a laugh and shook his head. "I think you are mistaken. This property is outside your HOA by about 30 feet. My car color does not affect you," he said. The woman did not seem convinced. She scribbled something on her clipboard and muttered, "I will confirm this with the board." She turned around and walked away, her steps stiff and angry. Armand sighed and continued unpacking his boxes. He brought in kitchen supplies, a few pots, and other essentials. He arranged the furniture carefully, imagining the future nights he would spend in his new home. He felt a sense of satisfaction. Finally, he had a place to call his own. The first challenge had already appeared, but he did not let it ruin his mood. As the afternoon passed, Armand took a short break on his porch. He sipped some cold lemonade and watched the street. Across the way, the same woman was talking to two neighbors. They seemed to be pointing at his house and nodding as if they were forming a plan. Armand frowned. He had hoped the first encounter was a misunderstanding, but now it looked deliberate. Later, while he was setting up a small shelf near the window, he heard a knock on the door. It was the woman again, this time accompanied by a man wearing a polo shirt with the HOA logo. Both had serious expressions. "Sir," the man said firmly, "we have checked our community map. Your house falls inside our HOA. You must attend the welcome meeting and pay your HOA fees immediately." Armand calmly walked to the door and opened a folder. He placed a copy of the property deed and county map in front of them. Actually, this shows that my property is outside your HOA. I purchased this home separately. You can see the boundary lines here, he explained. The man leaned over and examined the map. His face showed confusion. This cannot be correct, he said slowly. It is correct, Armin replied. I have verified everything with the county office. This home is legally outside your HOA. The woman's face turned red with anger. This is a mistake. You cannot live here without following our rules. Everyone in this community obeys them, she said. Armin spoke with calm confidence. I respect your community, but these rules do not apply to my property. I am here to live peacefully, not to disturb anyone. The woman glared at him and said, We will see about that. You will regret being so stubborn. She stormed off, dragging the man behind her. Armin shook his head. Some people just could not accept the truth. That evening, Armin stepped onto the porch to enjoy the sunset. The street was quiet. Birds sang, and the orange glow of the setting sun made the trees look magical. He hoped that the woman would realize her mistake and leave him alone. Maybe this would all end soon. However, the next morning he found a notice taped to his mailbox. It was titled HOA Violation Notice. The paper claimed that he had violated property rules, failed to register his vehicle, and had not paid HOA fees. He read it carefully and laughed quietly. He knew she had done this. It was her attempt to scare him. Armin quickly took a photo of the notice and sent it to his friend Adil, who worked at the local government office. Adil replied, Ignore it. They have no legal power over your property. If they try to harass you again, call me. I will handle it. That gave Armin peace of mind, but he could not shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Later that day, he saw the woman driving slowly past his house, taking pictures of his yard. Armin knew he had to stay calm and smart. He would enjoy his home, and he would not let anyone intimidate him. Armin spent the rest of the day arranging his garden and planting a few flowers. The work was relaxing, and the sun made everything look brighter. He looked at his small oak tree, imagining how much shade it would provide in the summer. He smiled, realizing that no HOA rule could take away his happiness. Even though trouble seemed to be approaching, Armin felt strong. This was his home, and he had the right to enjoy it. He would face any challenge with patience and intelligence. For the first time in years, he felt the peace of being truly free. The next morning, Armin woke up to the sound of birds chirping. Sunlight streamed through his window, and he felt a sense of relief. Yesterday had been exhausting, but he had survived the first challenge of moving into his new home. He hoped the HOA woman, whom he had quietly started calling Karen in his mind, would finally leave him alone. After breakfast, he decided to check the garden. He had planted small flowers and herbs, arranging them carefully along the walkway. The soil was soft and the plants looked healthy. He felt proud of how peaceful everything looked. Armin paused for a moment and admired the oak tree. Its thick branches swayed gently, casting shadows on the green lawn. Suddenly, a loud knock echoed through the house. Armin looked up, and to his surprise, he saw Karen standing at the gate again. This time, she had a neighbor with her, a tall man holding a clipboard. Armin sighed. It was clear she had made it her personal mission to monitor him. Karen raised her voice. Good morning. Once again, you are failing to follow community rules. Your flower arrangements are not approved, and your garden has decorations that violate the guidelines. You need to remove them immediately. Armin walked calmly toward the gate. He did not want to argue. Good morning. I appreciate your concern, but as I have explained, my property is outside your HOA boundary. I am free to arrange my garden as I like, he said politely. Karen blinked in disbelief. That is impossible. Every home on this street is under our association. You cannot ignore our rules. Armin gestured toward the property line markers. The county survey clearly shows that my house is separate. I am outside your jurisdiction. Here I have the deed and survey papers again if you want to see them. Karen looked momentarily confused, then shook her head angrily. I will report this to the board. You cannot simply ignore the rules. You are disturbing the neighborhood. Armin smiled gently. I am not disturbing anyone. I am keeping my home tidy and quiet. I want to live peacefully. Karen muttered something under her breath and walked away. Armin could see her talking into her phone, no doubt calling the HOA board to complain. He shook his head. She seemed determined to turn a calm neighborhood into a battlefield. Deciding to focus on more productive work, Armin went inside and started organizing his garage. He arranged tools, boxes, and gardening supplies neatly on shelves. While he worked, he reflected on the situation. He had purchased his home legally, he had all the necessary documents, and he had no intention of paying fees or following rules that did not apply to him. Yet the constant visits from Karen made him uneasy. Around noon there was another knock. This time it was a delivery man with a large package. Armin signed for it and brought it inside. As he carried it, he noticed Karen and her neighbor watching from across the street. It seemed that no matter what he did, they were always observing him. Armin knew he had to be careful. He could not give her any reason to create false claims. He decided to keep a record of everything, just in case. He started taking photos of his yard, his car, and the house. He made a note of every interaction with Karen. This way, he would have evidence to show that he was following the law and living peacefully. Later that afternoon, Armin decided to meet one of his other neighbors, a woman named Sana, who lived a few houses down. She had been friendly the day he moved in, waving and smiling. Armin hoped she could give him advice about dealing with the HOA. Sana welcomed him warmly. "Hi, Armin. How is the new house? You must be loving it," she said. "It is wonderful, thank you." "But I have a problem," Armin explained. He told her about Karen's constant visits and the violation notice. Sana nodded understandingly. "Oh yes, Karen is very strict. She loves to enforce rules even when they do not apply. I think she has been upset with a few new neighbors before you as well. The trick is to stay calm and document everything. Don't argue, just show them the facts politely." Armin felt relieved. It helped to hear that he was not alone in dealing with Karen. "Thank you, Sana. I have the property deed and survey, and I am keeping records of everything. But I did not expect her to act this way so soon." Sana smiled. "She likes to control everyone. You just have to let her know firmly but politely that you are outside her authority. She will try to push, but she cannot force you to follow rules that do not apply." Armin felt encouraged. He had a plan now. He would continue to live peacefully and prove that Karen had no power over him. That evening, as the sun began to set, Armin was watering his plants when he noticed a car slowly drive past his house. The driver waved briefly, and Armin realized it was Karen again. She seemed to be taking notes or pictures. He took a deep breath and reminded himself to stay calm. He would not let her actions ruin his peace. He finished watering the plants and went inside to make dinner. While cooking, he thought about the future. It was clear that Karen was determined to challenge him, but he had his documents, his records, and his calm attitude. He was confident that he could handle her. The next morning, Armin woke up to a surprising sight. A few more neighbors were outside, looking at his yard. Some waved politely, while others whispered to each other. Karen was standing with the man from the previous days, pointing at his house and gesturing with her hands. Armin decided to take action before the situation escalated further. He went to his laptop and drafted an email to the HOA board. He attached scans of the property deed and survey map, and explained clearly that his house was outside their jurisdiction. He remained polite but firm, asking them to confirm that he was not required to pay fees or attend meetings. After sending the email, he felt a sense of relief. He had done everything by the book. Now it was up to them to accept the facts. While waiting for a reply, Armin focused on organizing his house. He set up the living room, arranged the bedroom, and unpacked boxes in the kitchen. By mid-afternoon, the house looked cozy and welcoming. He felt a sense of pride in creating his space exactly as he wanted. Around 4 in the afternoon, there was a knock at the door. Armin opened it cautiously and saw a man in a suit standing there. He introduced himself as a local legal advisor who had been sent by the HOA board to verify property boundaries. Armin welcomed him inside and showed him the documents. The man studied the deed and map carefully. After a few minutes, he nodded. "You are correct. This property is outside the HOA boundary. The HOA cannot enforce rules on your home. I will report this to the board." You are free to live here without interference." Armin felt a wave of relief. Finally, he had confirmation from an official source. He thanked the man and watched as he left, promising to send a written report. That evening, Armin sat on his porch, sipping tea and looking at the sunset. He felt a sense of peace returning. He knew that Karen might continue to visit, but now he had the legal confirmation that she could not control him. He felt empowered and calm. Even though the challenge was not completely over, Armin realized that he had handled it well. He had stayed calm, documented everything, and sought advice from knowledgeable sources. He smiled, knowing that his home was truly his own, and he could enjoy it without fear. As night fell, he turned on the porch light and looked at the stars. The quiet neighborhood was finally peaceful again. Armin knew that Karen might try to cause trouble, but he was prepared. He had the truth on his side, and he would continue to protect his freedom. The morning sun painted the neighborhood with warm golden light as Armin stepped outside. Birds sang cheerfully in the trees, and the air carried the faint scent of fresh grass. For a moment he felt peace. After the confirmation from the legal advisor the day before, he thought things might finally calm down. However, he quickly realized that Karen's determination would not fade so easily. As he watered his small garden, he noticed a car slowly approaching his house. It was Karen again, this time with two other women who seemed to be neighbors. They stopped near the sidewalk, pointed at his property, and whispered to each other. Karen's eyes locked onto Armin's, and she waved her hand in a strict, commanding way. Armin took a deep breath. He knew that showing anger or frustration would only encourage her. He smiled politely and waved back. "Good morning," he said calmly. Karen's face tightened. "You need to remove that garden decoration immediately. It is unapproved and it does not match the community's aesthetic," she said sharply. Armin shook his head with a gentle smile. "I understand your concern, but as I have explained, my property is outside your HOA boundary. I am free to arrange my garden as I like." Karen's lips pressed together in anger. She pulled out a small notebook and began writing furiously. "We will report this. You cannot continue to ignore the rules." Armin returned to watering his plants. He focused on the small green leaves, enjoying the calm sensation of soil on his hands. Gardening had become a refuge, a way to remind himself of the peace he deserved. Later that morning, Armin received an email reply from the HOA board. It was short but firm. "After reviewing your documents, we confirm that your property is outside our jurisdiction. You are not required to follow HOA rules or pay fees. Please continue to enjoy your home responsibly." Armin smiled. The confirmation strengthened his confidence. However, he knew Karen might not accept this without trying other methods. She was clearly determined to make him uncomfortable. Around noon, as he was fixing a small shelf in his living room, he heard a loud ringing at the doorbell. When he opened the door, he found a group of neighbors standing there, led by Karen. She was holding a tablet and appeared ready to record something. "Armin," she said firmly, "we are conducting a neighborhood inspection. You need to show that your property follows community guidelines. Your fences, decorations, and even your plants must be evaluated." Armin took a deep breath. "I am happy to welcome visitors, but my property is outside your jurisdiction. You are free to look, but I am not required to follow HOA rules," he said calmly. Karen frowned but stepped forward with the tablet in her hand. The neighbors followed, looking around curiously. Armin allowed them to walk around his yard while he stayed on the porch, keeping a polite but firm distance. He noticed Karen snapping pictures and taking notes. Her determination was impressive, but it also made her appear more ridiculous. After they left, Armin took a moment to reflect. He realized that Karen was trying to intimidate him by creating a scene. She hoped that by showing other neighbors that he was breaking rules, she could pressure him into leaving. But Armin would not give her that satisfaction. He decided to be proactive. He spent the afternoon researching his rights as a homeowner. He printed documents about property law, HOA boundaries, and the rights of residents outside HOA jurisdiction. He organized the papers in a neat folder labeled Property Rights. This way he would be prepared for any future encounters. That evening he took a walk around the neighborhood. Many neighbors waved and smiled at him, but he noticed a few who seemed hesitant or curious about Karen's influence. Armin understood that Karen's presence was strong, but most people respected fairness and truth. He felt encouraged by this. Back at home, he started planning his garden more creatively. He wanted to make it beautiful and welcoming, yet within his own taste. He planted bright flowers along the walkway and added small decorative stones around the oak tree. The yard looked cheerful and inviting, a sharp contrast to Karen's strict and gray world. The next morning, Armin awoke to a new challenge. A letter had been slipped under his door. It was typed on HOA letterhead and addressed to him. The letter stated that Karen had filed a complaint about visual disturbances and potential safety hazards in his yard. It demanded that he remove certain items and pay a fine. Armin sighed. This was clearly harassment. He carefully photographed the yard, the letter, and his property boundaries. He made detailed notes of the dates and events, creating a timeline of Karen's actions. He knew that documentation was essential in proving his rights. He called his friend Adil for advice. "It seems she is trying to escalate things, but I have everything documented," Armin explained. Adil replied, "Good. Keep calm and continue documenting everything. If she continues harassment, you can send a formal notice to stop contact. You are fully protected by law." Feeling more confident, Armin drafted a response letter to the HOA board. He stated politely but firmly that his property was outside their jurisdiction, that Karen's actions were unhelpful, and that he wished to live peacefully without further interference. He attached photos and documents as proof. That evening, Armin went back to his garden. The air was calm, and the sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and pink. He watered his plants carefully and admired the work he had done. Gardening had become more than a hobby. It was a symbol of his independence. As he worked, he noticed a small bird hopping near the flowers. Its bright colors and cheerful presence lifted his spirits. He realized that life at home was about small joys and patience. Karen's visits, her complaints, and her rules could not take away that. Suddenly, he heard footsteps approaching from the street. Karen appeared again, this time alone. She walked briskly to the gate, holding a small notebook. Armin stayed calm and stepped onto the porch. "Armin," she said, "we are still concerned about your property. You must remove decorations that are not approved." Armin smiled politely. "Karen, I understand your concern, but I have explained multiple times that my property is outside the HOA boundary. I am happy to live peacefully without interfering with anyone. You are welcome to observe, but I am not required to follow HOA rules." Karen's face flushed red. "You cannot continue to ignore us. We will escalate this further." Armin nodded calmly. "I will be happy to continue providing documentation if needed. I wish only to live peacefully." Karen stared at him for a few seconds, clearly frustrated that he remained calm. Without saying another word, she turned and walked away. Armin watched her leave, feeling a mixture of relief and anticipation. He knew she might try again, but he was ready. That night, Armin reflected on the day. He realized that patience and preparation were his strongest tools. Karen could visit, she could complain, but she could not take his home or control him. He felt a sense of calm confidence. He decided to write in his journal, noting down each encounter, each letter, and each interaction. This way, he would have a clear record if the situation escalated further. Writing also helped him think clearly and stay focused on what mattered, living peacefully in his home. As he finished writing, he looked out the window at his garden. The flowers glowed softly under the porch light, and the oak tree cast gentle shadows across the yard. Armin smiled. He realized that freedom and peace were worth the effort. Karen might continue to challenge him, but he would remain strong and calm. He turned off the lights, closed the journal, and went to bed with a sense of accomplishment. His home was his sanctuary, and no one could take that away from him. The battle of patience was only beginning, but Armin was ready. The next morning, Armin woke up feeling determined. Over the past days, Karen had tested his patience and persistence, but he had stayed calm and collected. He knew she would not stop easily, and he needed a plan to protect his home and maintain peace. Today, he decided to focus on building community support, not just defending himself. After breakfast, Armin went outside to check his garden. The flowers he had planted glowed in the morning sunlight. He smiled, thinking how much work he had put into creating a warm and welcoming environment. His hands smelled faintly of soil, and he felt a sense of pride. Gardening had become more than a hobby. It was a symbol of his independence. While he watered his plants, he noticed a few neighbors walking their dogs along the street. Some waved, others nodded, and a couple stopped to chat. Armand decided to approach them politely. "Good morning," he said, smiling. "I am Armand, and I just moved into this house. It's nice to meet you." One of the neighbors, an older man named Kamal, smiled back. "Welcome, Armand. We've noticed your garden. It looks beautiful. Don't worry about that woman, Karen. She likes to involve herself in everything." Armand nodded. "Thank you. I appreciate the support. I wanted to meet neighbors personally and make connections. It seems Karen has been causing some confusion." Kamal chuckled. "Yes, she can be very strict. But most people here like to mind their own business and live peacefully. Just be polite and you will find support." Encouraged, Armand continued to introduce himself to more neighbors. He found that several of them had experienced similar conflicts with Karen in the past. Some had quietly endured her complaints, while others had stood their ground politely. Each conversation reinforced his confidence that truth and calmness were on his side. By mid-morning, Armand returned home with a sense of determination. He decided to prepare a friendly letter to distribute to the neighborhood. The letter explained that he had legally purchased the home outside HOA jurisdiction, that he wished to live peacefully, and that he hoped for neighborly cooperation. He emphasized respect, calm communication, and harmony. While writing, Armand felt a renewed sense of purpose. He realized that facing Karen alone was difficult, but involving the neighborhood in a positive way could create a protective network. His aim was not confrontation, but fairness and understanding. After preparing the letter, he walked door to door, handing copies to each neighbor. Most smiled, thanked him, and nodded their support. Some shared stories of Karen's previous complaints and offered advice. Armand listened carefully, learning about strategies that worked for others, such as remaining calm, documenting every interaction, and politely asserting rights. Later in the afternoon, while Armand was planting new flowers near the oak tree, he noticed Karen standing across the street with her clipboard. She seemed more agitated than before, perhaps frustrated that her influence was weakening. Armand remained calm. He waved politely and Karen looked momentarily surprised, then turned away. Armand understood that his strategy was working. By building neighborly trust and demonstrating calmness, he was slowly diminishing Karen's power over the community. He smiled quietly to himself and returned to gardening, focusing on small details, arranging stones and trimming branches. In the evening, Armand decided to hold a small neighborhood gathering. He invited a few neighbors over to his porch, offering tea and snacks. He wanted to meet them in a relaxed setting and strengthen the sense of community. The neighbors arrived, chatting and laughing. Kamal and Sana joined, along with a few others who had expressed support earlier. Armand welcomed everyone warmly. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I wanted to meet you all personally. I believe that a friendly neighborhood can solve misunderstandings quickly, and I hope to be a good neighbor." Everyone nodded and smiled. Conversations flowed naturally. Neighbors shared experiences, exchanged gardening tips, and laughed about minor disputes they had faced in the past. Armand realized that building personal connections was just as important as legal documentation. Karen could try to intimidate him, but the support of the neighborhood was a shield he could rely on. As the evening grew darker, Karen drove slowly past the house. She paused, glanced at the gathering, and then sped away without stopping. Armand felt a sense of relief. It seemed she was realizing that her efforts were no longer effective. The neighbors had seen his calmness and fairness, and Karen could not control their perception. After the gathering, Armand spent time updating his records. He logged each interaction, noting the neighbors who supported him and the letters or visits from Karen. This record gave him confidence and a clear timeline of events. He knew that should any legal issues arise in the future, he was fully prepared. The following morning, Armand woke to an unusual quiet. He stepped outside and noticed that Karen had not appeared. For the first time in days, he felt a small sense of relief. The sun shone brightly and the street looked peaceful. He watered his garden and smiled, enjoying the calm atmosphere. Later that morning, Armand received an email from the HOA board. The message was firm but clear. Karen's complaints had been reviewed, and it was confirmed that Armand's property was outside the HOA boundary. They warned her to stop harassing him. The email also encouraged all HOA members to respect legal boundaries. Armand felt a wave of satisfaction. His calm and strategic approach had worked. Karen had no legal grounds, the neighbors supported him, and the HOA board had officially confirmed his rights. That afternoon, Armand decided to prepare his garden for the coming week. He planted colorful flowers, arranged decorative stones, and trimmed the oak tree branches. Each action reminded him of his independence and right to enjoy his home. He realized that peace and patience were powerful tools. As the day turned to evening, Armand noticed that neighbors were stopping by to chat more freely. Some complimented his garden, others shared friendly stories, and a few even offered small gifts of plants or seeds. Armand felt a sense of belonging that was stronger than any conflict. Karen's visits had inadvertently brought the neighborhood closer together. That night, Armand reflected on the events of the past week. Karen's attempts to intimidate him had forced him to act calmly, strategically, and proactively. He had strengthened his legal position, built supportive relationships, and maintained his peace of mind. The experience had taught him the importance of preparation, patience, and community support. Armand went to bed with a sense of calm accomplishment. The garden outside glowed softly under the porch light. The neighborhood, once tense with conflict, now felt harmonious and connected. Armand knew that challenges might arise again, but he also knew that with calmness, knowledge, and community support, he could face anything. The next morning, Armand woke up feeling refreshed. Sunlight streamed through the window and birds sang cheerfully. Karen had not appeared overnight and the street felt peaceful. He realized that the battle was not just about legal boundaries. It was about maintaining dignity, patience, and integrity in the face of unnecessary conflict. Armand stepped outside, breathing in the fresh morning air. His garden was blooming, the neighborhood felt friendly, and he had taken control of his new life. He smiled quietly, realizing that he had turned a difficult situation into an opportunity for growth, connection, and lasting peace. With determination, he decided to continue documenting events, nurturing his garden, and strengthening relationships with supportive neighbors. He knew that by staying calm and confident, he could protect his home and enjoy the life he had worked so hard to create. Armand looked at the oak tree, feeling a sense of pride and serenity. The sunlight highlighted the vibrant flowers and the neatly arranged stones in his garden. He knew that no one could take this peace away. His home was his sanctuary, and he would continue to safeguard it with patience, courage, and wisdom. The morning sun shone brightly over Armand's neighborhood. Birds sang in the trees, and the flowers in his garden glowed with color. After weeks of tension and visits from Karen, the atmosphere finally felt calm. Armand stepped outside, breathing deeply. The air was fresh, and a sense of relief washed over him. For the first time, Karen had not appeared early in the morning. Armand knew that she might return, but he felt confident that his calm, patient approach had strengthened his position. The HOA board had already confirmed that his property was outside their jurisdiction. His neighbors supported him, and he had detailed documentation of all interactions. He had turned the stressful situation into an opportunity to build trust and friendship with the community. Armand spent the morning tending to his garden. He trimmed the oak tree, watered the plants, and arranged decorative stones along the walkway. The colors of the flowers seemed brighter than ever, as if celebrating his small victory. While working, he noticed a few neighbors walking along the street. Some waved, and a couple stopped to greet him. "Good morning, Armand," said Kamal, smiling warmly. "Your garden looks wonderful. I am glad to see everything peaceful now." "Thank you, Kamal," Armand replied. "It feels great to have calm here. I appreciate your support throughout this." Sana, who lived a few houses down, walked over with a basket of freshly picked flowers. "I thought these would brighten your garden," she said cheerfully. "Karen has been difficult, but it seems the neighborhood agrees that peace is more important." Armand accepted the flowers gratefully. "Thank you, Sana. Your support means a lot. Together we can make this neighborhood harmonious without unnecessary conflict." As the morning progressed, Armand decided to take another proactive step. He drafted a polite but firm letter addressed to Karen, summarizing the legal confirmation from the HOA board, the property documents, and the supportive statements from neighbors. He emphasized that continued harassment could have legal consequences, and requested that she respect his right to live peacefully. By mid-afternoon, Armand had carefully delivered copies of the letter to Karen's property. He remained calm, professional, and respectful throughout the process. Karen glanced at the envelope, her expression unreadable. Armin smiled politely and walked back to his house. He did not need to argue or raise his voice. The documents spoke for themselves. Later that day, Armin received a phone call from Adil, his friend in the local government office. Armin, the HOA has reviewed Karen's behavior. They have issued a formal notice to her, warning against any further harassment. If she continues, she could face serious consequences, Adil explained. Armin felt a surge of relief. That is excellent news. Thank you for your help, Adil, he said gratefully. You handled everything very well, Adil continued. You stayed calm, documented everything, and involved the community. That was smart. Karen cannot intimidate someone prepared and patient like you. Armin hung up the phone and looked around his garden. Everything felt peaceful. The sun was lowering in the sky, casting long shadows over the flowers and oak tree. He realized that he had learned important lessons about patience, strategy, and the value of community support. That evening, a few neighbors came over for a small celebration. Kamal, Sana, and a couple of others brought snacks and tea. They gathered on Armin's porch, sharing stories, laughter, and light conversation. The atmosphere was warm, friendly, and relaxed. Arman, I am glad that you stayed calm throughout this, Kamal said. Many people would have lost their temper, but your patience worked better than anything else. Arman nodded. Thank you, Kamal. I realize that calmness and preparation are stronger than anger. This neighborhood is full of kind people, and together we can keep it peaceful. Sana smiled. It is inspiring to see someone handle challenges with dignity. Karen may not realize it, but your approach has made a positive difference. As night fell, Armin sat alone on the porch looking at his garden and the oak tree. He reflected on the past few weeks. Karen's constant visits, the violation notices, and the endless complaints had been stressful. Yet, through careful planning, documentation, and neighborly support, he had turned a tense situation into a peaceful one. He felt proud of how he handled everything. Armin realized that the experience had strengthened his confidence. He knew that challenges might arise in life, but staying calm, informed, and respectful could resolve conflicts without unnecessary stress. He looked at his home and garden, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. The next morning, Armin woke to a quiet neighborhood. Karen had not appeared for several days. He continued to tend to his garden, arranging flowers, trimming branches, and enjoying the sun. Each task felt like a small victory, reinforcing the peace he had created in his life. Around midday, he heard a knock on the door. When he opened it, he saw the HOA board representative standing there with a folder. The representative smiled politely. Armin, we wanted to inform you officially that Karen has been warned against any further harassment. Your property is confirmed to be outside HOA jurisdiction, and you are fully protected. You can continue to enjoy your home without interference. Armin thanked the representative warmly. I appreciate your support and confirmation. It means a lot to know that fairness prevails. The representative nodded and left, leaving Armin with a sense of relief and victory. He walked to his garden, feeling the warm sun on his face and enjoying the colorful blooms. It was a quiet, peaceful afternoon, and he realized that he had successfully reclaimed his home and life. Later that evening, Armin hosted a small neighborhood dinner. A few neighbors joined him, bringing food and drinks. They laughed, shared stories, and celebrated the end of the conflict. Armin felt grateful for their support and the sense of unity that had formed. The conflict with Karen had brought the community together in a positive way. As the dinner ended, Kamal raised his glass. To Armin, for showing patience, wisdom, and courage. You have reminded us all that calmness and fairness can overcome even the most difficult challenges. Everyone raised their glasses, and Armin smiled. Thank you, everyone. It was your support that made this possible. Together, we have built a peaceful and respectful community. After the guests left, Armin spent some time alone in his garden. The night was calm, the stars twinkling above. He walked slowly along the flower beds, feeling the soft grass under his feet. He looked at the oak tree and realized how much it symbolized strength, patience, and endurance. The experience had taught him that challenges could be opportunities. Karen's attempts to intimidate him had tested his patience, but they had also given him the chance to strengthen his legal knowledge, build community bonds, and demonstrate dignity under pressure. He felt a deep sense of accomplishment. Over the next few weeks, life returned to normal. Karen stopped appearing, and the neighborhood continued to be peaceful. Armand tended to his garden, enjoyed his home, and built stronger friendships with neighbors. He felt a sense of belonging that went beyond property lines. One morning, Armand noticed a small bird perched on the oak tree. Its bright colors and cheerful song reminded him of the first day he moved in. He smiled, remembering the challenges and realizing how far he had come. His home was no longer just a place. It was a sanctuary filled with peace, community, and happiness. Armand sat on the porch sipping tea and watching the sunrise. He felt content, knowing that patience, preparation, and fairness had won the day. He had faced unnecessary conflict, but he had emerged stronger, wiser, and more connected to the people around him. His home was safe, his neighbors were supportive, and the tension with Karen was finally over. As the sun rose higher in the sky, Armand felt a sense of optimism for the future. He knew that life might bring challenges, but with calmness, integrity, and community, any obstacle could be overcome. He looked at his garden, his oak tree, and his home with pride. This was his victory, and it was peaceful, lasting, and well-earned. For Armand, the struggle had ended, and a new chapter of harmony and joy had begun. His home was truly his own, and he would continue to protect it with patience, wisdom, and courage. The neighborhood was no longer a place of conflict, but a community of respect, kindness, and friendship. Armand smiled, feeling the warmth of the sun, the gentle breeze, and the satisfaction of a challenge met with dignity.